Welcome to a very sunny afternoon here in Cardiff to talk about this, the TTArtisan 40mm f2. Announced and or released today. I should probably have checked that ahead of time. Quick summary up front. It's $168, which is ridiculously good value because it's good. It's a good lens and it's got a bit of character as well. What's not to like? I'm going to talk a bit about the features. We're going to do some street photography, and because this is the Z mount version, it's available for E, Z and L mounts. But this is the Z mount, so we're going to use Nikon's most obvious street photography camera. That's right, it's the Nikon Z9. And I have the Nikon 40f2 as well, with which to compare it. And if you fancy another channel to watch at some point, go check out I Explore over in Tokyo, where Lucas does street photography around Tokyo, and he also uses Z9. There's dozens of us. Well, at least two. That's the only two I know of. Anyway, let's go and take some street photos on this TTArtisan lens. Build quality wise, it's a mostly metal build, and I like that. It's got a clicky metal aperture ring, something quite rare, annoyingly, on the Z mount in particular. On E and L mounts, less so. Other lenses have them, but it's quite uncommon on the Z mount for some reason. It's quite irritating. I don't think Nikon makes any lenses with aperture rings at the moment. Anyway, neat little feature in the rear cap as well. It's got contacts and a USB-C port. So it's like a Sigma USB dock, but built into the rear cap. Never seen that before. Nice little feature. I do like that. The one downside to the build of this lens is it's got no weather sealing. Now, I don't mind that, even though I like weather sealing on my lenses, because at these lower budget lenses, or in this little lower budget range, any small amount of money that you can shave off it makes a big difference as to who can afford it. The difference of, say, £10 at this price point is very different to, say, at the £3,000 mark. That sort of thing. I get annoyed with some companies like Canon who just cut weather sealing from quite expensive lenses for seemingly no reason, but for this I do not mind. However, it is a point of difference. The Nikon 40f2 is fully weather sealed. It's got a plastic mount with a lip. It has gaskets throughout. It is weather sealed, so if you're shooting in the rain a lot, like I often do in Wales, that may be the better choice for you, but it is quite a bit more money considering the budget of this. So I'm imagining the British price for this will be about £150, and the 40 f2 is more like 220 to 250. So it's a notable difference, but it is something worth keeping in mind. Now, I always feel like it's a little bit unfair to take an affordable lens, slap it on a really expensive, high-end, high-resolution camera and assess its image quality, but that's what I've done. And there's some good news here. It performs really well, and I don't mean really well for the price, I mean really well full stop. It's a good lens, and it's got some characteristics, I suppose. So for distant subjects, from f2, wide open, it's decently sharp, and it's a little bit sharper from f4. But when it comes to closer subjects, it does go a bit softer. So closer to the minimum focus distance, f2 is softer. It sharpens up quite significantly at f2.8 and again at f4, and it's sharp thereafter. So that's the major difference in terms of lens sharpness. It does vignette, but not dramatically so. At f2 it kind of does, but it's got a really cool look, to be honest, and I like it for taking photos of people, etc. And rather curiously, loading the photos into DxO Photolab, it's misidentified the lens as the Nikon 40 f2, applied the automatic vignetting compensation, and it seems to have worked perfectly. So it might be useful to you if you buy this lens. And it has a couple of other characteristics too. I noticed in my office that wide open at f2 and at f2.8, it was getting a glow from one of my lamps. Quite like that, it's very retro. And it does experience some flaring, which I'm assuming is related. So shooting it outside, shooting it into the sun, I have caused it to flare, but it's quite stylish in most scenarios. I'm liking the diagonal lines, I'm liking the sort of rainbowy sort of arcs. I think it's got a really cool, slightly retro look. And you can adjust your positioning and stuff to get rid of the flare, and if you use the hood, it's reduced. If you stop down, it's a little bit reduced as well. Something to note. But if you're looking for a sort of retro look but with autofocus on, say, your Nikon ZF, well, this could be a good choice for you. There is one part of the flare that can be frustrating. It's got a sort of veiling flare that covers more of the picture, and it's a bit streaky. Don't love that, but it's only cropped up in a couple of photos, and every lens flares, they've just got different characteristics, and this one I think isn't as controlled as more expensive lenses, for example, but it has its own character, and I like that. It means that you can buy it for the look that it produces, because it is somewhat unique. I like that being an option. And if you don't like flare, well, don't shoot it into the sun, I guess. Now, in terms of other aspects of the performance of this lens, it does make the Z9 start up slower, which is a curiosity. I'm pretty certain that's a Nikon problem. I think I've had it before on a couple of other lenses. Don't know why. I'd be curious to try out the E and L mount versions of the lens just to compare. I think it is a Z mount problem, just something to note. And it's not significantly different, it's just something I noticed. Autofocus performance, zero complaints. Performs really well, being able to get photographs of moving cat. I always shoot in continuous autofocus on the Z9. I like how it's performing for street photography and the like. It's just performing really, really well. Now let's take a quick look at the bokeh and other optical characteristics of this lens as compared to the Nikon 40mm f2. And wide open, I think it compares quite favourably. The Nikon lens exhibits some red fringing around the in-focus subject. This is longitudinal chromatic aberration, where the lens is resolving different colour wavelengths at different focus distances, and the Nikon exhibits it on the in-focus subject. However, it doesn't seem to exhibit it quite as much. As you move further away from the in-focus subject, the bokeh balls in the background don't tend to have a particularly strong fringe or colour cast to them. The TTArtisan lens, by comparison, shows no fringing on the in-focus subject, but it does show a strong blue fringe on the bokeh balls. This means that most of the time you're going to see a blue tinge to the blurred background in your photos. However, wide open, the bokeh balls on the TTArtisan lens I think are smoother and softer than those on the Nikon lens, which has a bit of a soap bubble effect, which can make it look a bit busy. But this advantage does disappear as the lenses stop down. The Nikon lens has more aperture blades, more rounded aperture blades, and it maintains the roundness of the bokeh as you stop down, which prevents it from appearing too busy. whereas the TTArtisan lens takes on a more heptagonal shape to the bokeh balls and it begins to look busier as you stop down. So overall, I think the Nikon lens does perform better over a wider range of apertures, and the TTArtisan lens has more of a vintage lens look. Well, that's it for my thoughts on the TTArtisan 40mm f2. My conclusion is I think it's a bit of a bargain. But what are your thoughts? Please do let me know down in the comment section below. Is this the sort of lens you're after? Do you like a bargain? Do you like a 40mm lens? I'd be really curious to know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.